Have you ever wondered why the same racial struggles America faced over a century ago still define our lives today? Why progress feels fragile? Why equality feels conditional? Why the tension never fully disappears? One man saw it coming, long before most Americans were ready to hear it. Follow if you've never heard this story. On February 23, 1868, William Edward Burghardt DuBois was born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. He would grow into one of the most brilliant minds America ever produced, and the man who diagnosed the nation's deepest wound with chilling accuracy. In 1903, DuBois wrote a sentence that would echo across generations. "The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line." More than 120 years later, that line still explains America better than most textbooks. A scholar who refused comfort. DuBois was not just an activist. He was a scholar, trained, credentialed, and uncompromising. In 1895, he became the first African American to earn a PhD from Harvard University. At a time when black intellect was dismissed as inferior, DuBois mastered history, sociology, economics, and philosophy, using the system's own standards to expose its lies. But instead of retreating into academic safety, he chose confrontation. DuBois believed knowledge was not meant to sit quietly on shelves. It was meant to challenge power, the souls of black folk and double consciousness. In 1903, DuBois published his most influential work, The Souls of Black Folk. In it, he introduced a concept that explained the psychological toll of racism better than any statistic ever could: double consciousness. He wrote, "One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings." DuBois explained that black Americans were forced to see themselves in two ways at once: through their own humanity and through the contemptuous gaze of a racist society. This internal conflict was not accidental. It was produced by a nation that demanded black loyalty while denying black dignity. That tension between belonging and exclusion still defines American life. Challenging Booker T. Washington. At the turn of the 20th century, DuBois openly challenged the most prominent black leader of the time, Booker T. Washington. Washington argued that black Americans should accept segregation temporarily, focus on vocational labor, and prove their worth slowly. DuBois rejected this completely. He believed waiting for justice only strengthened injustice. DuBois demanded immediate civil rights, higher education, not just manual training, political power, not patience. He argued that no group had ever earned freedom by asking quietly. The NAACP and the crisis. In 1909, DuBois co-founded the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, one of the most important civil rights organizations in American history. He also became editor of the Crisis magazine, which quickly grew into the most influential black publication of the early 20th century. Through its pages, DuBois exposed lynching with data and photographs, challenged segregation laws, celebrated black art, literature, and thought, demanded accountability from the federal government. The Crisis was not neutral journalism. It was intellectual resistance. A global vision, Pan-Africanism. DuBois understood something many American leaders refused to accept. The struggle for black freedom was not just American, it was global. He organized Pan-African Congresses, connecting African Americans with liberation movements across Africa and the Caribbean. He believed colonialism, racism, and economic exploitation were interconnected systems. Freedom in the U.S. meant little if black people worldwide remained oppressed. This global perspective made DuBois dangerous to those invested in empire and hierarchy, from celebration to surveillance. As DuBois grew older, his critiques grew sharper. He condemned capitalism's role in racial inequality. He opposed imperialism. He criticized America's failure to live up to its ideals. Eventually, the same country that once celebrated him began to monitor him. During the Cold War, Du Bois was surveilled, harassed, and marginalized for his political views. Leaving America, and the final irony. In his final years, Du Bois chose exile over erasure. He moved to Ghana, newly independent and symbolically aligned with the Pan-African future he had long imagined. On August 27, 1963, W.E.B. Du Bois died at the age of 95. The next day, August 28, 1963, more than 250,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. for the March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. As one era marched forward, the man who predicted the struggle passed quietly, but his warning remained. Why Du Bois still matters. Du Bois didn't just describe racism, he explained how it was structured, how it was internalized, how it was protected by institutions. He warned that ignoring the color line would not erase it, it would entrench it. America never fully answered his challenge. That is why his words still feel prophetic. Subscribe here to uncover more hidden Black stories. Comment if you'd like to hear more about W.E.B. Du Bois. We don't glorify injustice.